But what's your view on GMO crops? What do you think about it? Since you've used it outside the country
Yes,
before,
I have.
That's outside the country weather. You know, sometimes planting also, the weather also determines it. And you know how Nigeria weather can be. I'm sure we have one of the best climate change and weather in the country. So, but what's your view on the GMO crops?
My view on GMO is what I just stated a few minutes ago. As a nation, let's bring these experts together. It's always good, just lock them in a room. Let those for and against, let them have that discussion. And when we are coming out, let's really know. Because those of us who are not experts, we have been put in a very difficult situation. When a professor says something is not good, you know, you are not an authority in that field, you'll be a bit circumspect and hesitant.
Welcome to the conversation. This is where we dive into the most pressing issues of our time, exploring the ideas and perspectives that shape our world. It is no longer news that Nigeria is blessed with a large and arable land goods for crop cultivation, but over the years, the country fortune in agriculture has been on a steady decline as a result of many factors, especially poor requirement to agriculture, which leaves only aged subsistence farmers on a farm, poor agric merchandise, and of course, poor seeds and seedling, to mention but a few. The seedlings are the crucial components of a plant's growth and development. The truth is that quality seed and seedling produce good harvest, but the reality in Nigeria, at least for many years, is that new seed varies are unavailable to farmers, and when available, the costs are very, very high. We will be discussing agriculture and food security, availability of seed and seedling. What is the situation now? Are Nigerian farmers planting quality seed, and how effective are the various agricultural research institutes in making high-yielding seed variables available to farmers in Nigeria? These are more we shall try to find answers to on the conversation. Welcome. I am Beatrice Okimberley. And I have with me here Mr. Segun One, a renowned farmer and also a public analyst, because today we are speaking about culture and he will be talking to us on the agricultural sector. So it's good to have you here, sir.
Good morning. Such a pleasure to be here this morning.
All right, thank you. So how important do you think seed and seedling is to the agricultural sector?
Seed and seedling, as a matter of fact, is actually or are the precursor to what we call harvest in agriculture. Without seed and seedlings, there is no way you arrive at what we call harvest. And that means in the food value chain, the seed and seedlings form a core and very important part. At the moment we get it right at the seed and seedling stage, then we can be very sure, like they say in economics, all things be the same in between, then the harvest is guaranteed. But the moment we get it wrong in the seed and the seedling phase, then the challenge we have now, where we have over 50% post-harvest losses, and when we have most of our crops in this part of the world not yielding maximally, will become the order of the day.
Okay, so in relation to the seed and seedling, how available it is to farmer in relation to harvest?
Unfortunately, we have an intractable challenge in our hands as a nation. For many years, the statistics have shown that we have nearly 300,000 metric tons shortage of seed and seedling, and it's been a perennial problem. I was privileged to be in a program just a few months ago when the Minister of Agriculture actually alluded to the same fact, that the challenge we currently have is that we are not getting it right at the phase of the seed and seedling. And he enunciated a few steps that needed to be taken. But I must tell you clearly that as someone who is in the sector, is actually a widespread challenge. It might be peculiar when it comes to the type of seed that is required and the type of seedling across whether it's south and the north. For instance, here in the FCT, where I have my farm, we have a major issue with having the right seedlings and the right seed when it comes to maize farming, yam farming, beans, which are actually the major staples that are planted in the north central region. And this has been an intractable challenge, like I did mention. It has impacted on the harvest of these crops, but let me put a bit of historical antecedent to why we're where we are, why we're now having a more compounded problem. The COVID challenge was there. So since the post-COVID era, we've had issue with our seeds. Don't also forget that for a very long time, the middle belt, when you mentioned Plateau, Benue, Nasarawa, and part of the FCT, have actually also had its own brunt of insecurity. And so these are some of the issues, not minding the global perspective to seed and seedling, which of course is climate change, where we have drought now impacting on the viability of seed. So these are some of the challenges with seed and seedling in this part of the country.
Okay, so just let's say that the availability is quite low. So what about the quality of the seed and seedling? How is it available to farmers? Not just big merchandise, you know, even farmers in rural areas, since they are the one in large numbers. No, we have large numbers of farmers in the rural area. So how is the quality of the seed to them?
Now, you've asked a very brilliant question. I just want to properly contextualize the question you ask. Nearly 80% of our harvest in Nigeria is actually the labor of what we call smallholder farmers. Nearly 80% is in the region of 79 point something percent of our harvest come from smallholder farmers. So there is a major, is actually a twin challenge. The first one is that we have very low quality seed. And let me give an example. Last year, someone who claimed to be an Agric extension worker came to where I have my farm. I guess somebody told him that there were a number of farmers who were farming in that part of the FCT. So he came around and promised us that there is, he called it Tesla maize seed, that it was a new variant from IITA and stuff like that, that if we buy it and we use it for our planting, first, it's going to reduce the turnaround period. Instead of waiting for 4 months, that we can get it within 2 months, and that we're going to have very awesome harvest. And so we bought into it. We were a bit hesitant, but when he reeled out some of those benefits, we bought a few. Unfortunately, it was the worst harvest I ever had.
Wow. Oh, you make use of the Tesla.
Yeah, the Tesla. And a lot of other farmers in the area. So when it came with the beans, since we already saw none of us bought into it, we also had a challenge with cows coming to Russell and things like that. But that was not the major issue. Even the seed that we bought, the quality was very bad. So we have different shops selling. They label it, there is no certification. The body that is saddled the responsibility of ensuring that farmers actually purchase quality seeds, we really don't know what they are doing in the country. That's coupled with the twin challenge of even knowing the exact place to buy the quality seedling. At least I've been farming for about 3 years now. But unfortunately, I don't know the exact shop to go to if I want seed in Buhari local government. That's that bad. And I'm talking about with my level of education. You can now imagine those who are in the core rural areas. Right. So how do they walk through this challenge? So we have a twin challenge. Number one, these seeds are actually not available. Number two, when they are available, you can't guarantee their quality.
Oh, So how did you not get the seed to farm, and at what prices? Since it's very difficult to get, there's a lot of unavailability of the seed, and you can't guarantee the quality, just like you said. So how did you get seed to farm, and
Well,
at what prices? What's the challenges?
for someone like me, and I'm saying that because it's now peculiar to me.
Yeah.
Many people don't have that advantage. I farm in the FCT. I'm from Ekiti State. So what I did was that I had to call people in Ekiti State and say, please, I'm having this challenge here. And so they said, oh, what we'll do, we'll help you prospect for the good seeds that we use here. So they bought it and sent it from Ekiti. So when I experimented last year, and it was a very huge failure, I just had to talk to them. They got seed for me. When I planted and I saw that the harvest was decent, I ensured that after consuming the one we needed to consume, sowed a few. So we now kept for the next planting season. And so for me, that's actually what we depend on now. We look at our harvest, the ones that are very good, we now preserve them for the next farming season. And that's what a lot of farmers do. The second leg of your question, at what cost? I think the statistics is everywhere. Since not many people really know, because when you talk about the far-reaching effect of the removal of subsidy, not many people actually know that it impacted quite negatively on farmers as well.
Oh, so the subsidy also have a huge effect on the farmers.
Yes, it affected the farmers.
Okay.
A mudu of the corn seedling seed that we usually buy before increased by as high as 50%.
Oh.
So when farmers come, I've heard people have this conversation before. What are they adding extra? Corn is very expensive this year. That is very expensive. I just smile because those of us who bought those things to plant, we knew that it was not the price we bought it before, right? Pre-subsidy removal. It's not the same price we are buying it post-subsidy removal. So it actually has a multivariate effect on what we are doing also as farmers. So for some of us, the prices of our seed had gone as high as 50%, some 30, 40%, depending on type of seed you are planting. It's even worse for yam because yam set, it doesn't matter how many heaps you cultivate. You always discover there is always a need to improve on the yam set that you plant year after year. Last year, even despite having a few of those things, the investment that went into yam set, well, it's even higher than 50% of what it used to be. And that's the reality of virtually every farm.
Wow. Okay, but we have so many research institutes, pertaining to agriculture. We have so many University of Agriculture, and we know that when it comes to agriculture, Nigeria has invested quite some of a month into it. So we have a lot of researchers. So I don't know, those researchers, have they really done much so that there can be subsequent provisions of seed to farmers? Or how well has the researcher gone far to so that we can always get, you don't have to go to Ekiti to get your seed when, there are research everywhere, or we should have a specific place where there should be seed provision. So, no.
Well, I think my response would be a bit conservative.
Why is it that the researchers are not getting results for, so that there will be easy provision, seed provisions for farmers?
You know how they say it? They say garbage in, garbage out.
Okay.
The standard requirement for research and development, what you call R&D, when it comes to agriculture, in the global context, is supposed to be 5% of the agri budget. But what percentage is actually devoted to research and development? We had IITA in Ibadan,
yes.
There was a period that for many months, the researchers there were on strike because they were not properly paid.
Wow.
Yeah, these are the issues. And when you also look at some of the schools of agriculture, you have one in you have in Makurdi, you have another one in Abeokuta,
Yes.
and a few other places in the country. You should ask yourself, some of these universities, when the funding that is needed to run as a full-fledged agricultural research ivory tower is not coming. Go to those universities today, you see them, they are doing medicine, they are doing accounting, economics, courses that are not related to agriculture because the funding is not there. So that's
But there's also a research institute that do well with research in Nigeria.
Yeah, I'm actually coming there. So we have the first leg. We don't have enough funding.
Okay.
Even when we now have the funding, right? How have we been able to bridge the gap between the, what they call the gown and the community? These researchers, they spent several years, several hours, often using public resources to invest in their researches. How have we been able to now bridge that gap? Because they are in their lecture halls, they are in the university laboratories doing those researches. How do you now bridge the gap of the lab and the community, the farmers who needed those researches? I'm just telling you, I'm in the FCT. I farm in the FCT. I don't have access to seed. So how do you explain somebody who is farming in Zamfara, in Borno, to have access to those seed? And there have been anything I'll be saying here as a way out. They are not novel. They are in the books. There are some of these researchers have suggested that. For instance, why don't we have community seed hubs across the 774 local governments?
I was actually coming to ask you that.
Where some of these researchers, you can now bring their researches. Within, any farmer can walk into those places. They have not just researched, they have also ensured that, because one of the negative side of our researches before today is that we've not been able to package them in a way and manner that it will stand the test of time. When I require it, I can just go and get it. But now I've been to some of their what you call shows, and these researchers, they've been able to package these things in very decent manner that farmers can just walk in and make these purchases, but they are not readily available. So the researchers are trying their bit, researching and ensuring that we have the best type of seed available. But the farmers who require these seeds, these seedlings, they are not getting them. So that's where the problem is.
Wow. Oh, okay. But during one of my research, though, just a personal findings, I learned that some agric expert farmers said so a fertilizer is actually not good in farming. Well, what did they mean by that? No, because I was doing some reading a while ago, and I saw that. In fact, that was even what prompted this my topic of the seed and seed. I was like, oh, since fertilizer is not needed in farming, I really can't understand. So, as an expert that you are, a renowned farmer, so what did you understand by that?
I won't call myself an expert. I think I would prefer to say, as just a smallholder farmer, what's my perspective to that?
Okay.
I think some of these issues are more cultural. They are more cultural. All right. But the statistics don't lie. If you have smallholder farmers taking care of 80% of our products, agricultural produce as a country, that tells you something.
Okay, wait, excuse me, 1 second. But they made emphasis, it just goes to my mind now, that they make emphasis that fertilizer shouldn't be used on farm during rainy season. No, during rain. So I really don't understand that concept. I
was trying to speak to that. When it comes to research, some of the reasons that have been adduced for that, for some of us who are educated, we've tried to study and see and really there is everything that you use chemical for has its own downside. All right, that's the truth. It has its own downside, but the downside is not as so bad
as the way they
as it's often painted. In fact, I have a boss that if he wants to buy a thing, the moment you tell him you apply fertilizer, no, I don't eat anything with it. And I laugh because the same individual will travel to the US, to the UK, and they use these things. And that's still one of the reasons, a major reason why we have not been able to get to that place of food sufficiency. Because if you just want to be farming in 2025, just using the normal, don't apply fertilizer, what you're also saying is that you have reduced the yield, okay? The volume, the quantity of the yield that you can actually get as a farmer. Let me give you one instance. I farmed my maize, this maize season that just passed. I was on a 12 plots of land. That's what I used for the maize farm. And there was a neighbor of mine who used 10. He applied fertilizer. I did not apply fertilizer. I actually did not apply fertilizer because of the same reason. The plan is not to do it for commercial purpose. The plan is to do it for our personal consumption, and friends and families who also require maize for that season. That was the plan. So my wife insisted, no, let's put fertilizer because fertilizer, so we didn't. So when it was time to harvest, the other guy brought a huge truck to harvest. I harvested using just bags. It's so clear. And that's one of the reasons. And I think we have to go. We had this conversation even in the health sector for many years, where religious leaders, community leaders, we tell you, if you take these drops, it can affect your children later in the future. But research actually disproved these things. So we also have that concern in the agricultural space, where people just have this mindset that when you put fertilizer in anything, it's not healthy, it's not good, but that's actually not true.
And it's actually not a natural consumption anymore.
It is not. And I really even don't want to talk about GMOs because it's an anathema in this part of the world. It's an anathema in this part of the world. So I think there's a cultural coloration to the conversation around the usage of fertilizer, because researchers have made it very clear, except you are buying, but even if you don't want to use maybe these chemical compounds and the rest of them, how about your manure? How about use those ones that are just the normal fertilizer, that they don't need to put NPK, put all the other phosphate and all those chemical compounds? Why not use dungs that comes from maybe poultry, that come from pig? So you can use from pig pen and the rest of them. It will help the yield of the farm.
Okay, so you're suggesting using fertilizer is actually not a bad thing.
It's not
but
a bad
thing. Is also leaving out the aspects of the natural feelings that we need. And elsewise, they also eat the fresh and the natural food consumption the best way you can. But getting a fertilizer on your plants, it grows faster, but is it really good for consumption?
It is good for consumption.
We know that most of things we eat, in fact, the imported products that we are eating in Nigeria are all fertilizer based. There are most of the products that are also chemical based. And we know, okay, it's good for consumption, but is it really healthy?
Well, because some of these conversations sometimes is always about, do you want to eat to stay alive, or you want to starve not to be alive?
Okay.
It's actually, for me, it shouldn't be, but that's what it is now. If you have a country with a population of 240 million and you are counting, and in the coming year, the projections show clearly that our population will not decrease, at least in the nearest foreseeable future, our population will keep on increasing. And we have found ourselves, as I speak to you, the hunger threat in the country. Statistics shows this 2025, we have almost 40 million people who are hungry. All right, facilitated at least by insecurity in part of the north, which is a major hub for agric production. So we have that challenge. So how do we bridge that gap to ensure that we don't have over 40 million people hungry? If we still want to, a lot of people who used to be farmers before have actually run away from where they farm because of kidnappers, herders, and terrorists who are running riot in their parcels of land. So how do we break that gap? We need to multiply the food we eat. Okay, like I said, research has not shown that there is something seriously harmful. What we have seen is that maybe over time we can have that, but for now, is it good to depend, like we usually say, natural vegetable? Yes, it is. But to feed a population of 240 million, you really can't do that. So you have to save people that would die if we don't have sufficient food before we can even be having the conversation of should we, and I've tried to study if there's any country in the world that depends 100% on natural. There is no country that does that.
Yeah, okay. Moving on, let's talk about the pests and parasites in harvest, and how well are they eating deep in your seed, and how is it preventing the growth of your harvest?
Okay, you have raised another very important question. When you are talking about seed and seedling, you also cannot underplay the role of seeds and seedlings that are resistant to pests and parasites. That's actually where researchers, that's where they come in. Before now, my late father used to be a farmer as well, though not a commercial farmer too, but he farmed all through his life. And I know that there are a number of challenges when it comes to pests and parasites that at the level of their farming, agricultural practice, they just think is the norm. All right, so they get to their farm, pests had actually mopped up. I think my dad then used to farm a lot of okra. He used to have a lot of okra farms. And when he gets this, these things are here again. And he just think, after a while, they will go again, okay? But that simply shows you that it will affect the yield in that farm. So what researchers have done is that they've been able to also develop seeds and seedlings that are resistant to some of these things. But don't forget, I've laid the background.
Yeah.
They researched. They said, no, this type of pest and parasites should not be having. But the farmers, those of us who are the first line, who needed these plants, we don't have it. So it's more like a textbook solution that is not having any direct impact on the actual problem on ground. So I can tell you, Hoha, this is the beans period. If you go to any beans farm around here, the first thing you are going to notice is that you are going to see yellow leaves in some of these beans. That is a problem, and it's widespread in the FCT here. So it's a major challenge we are seeing. Certainly, it tells you it's going to affect our harvest as farmers.
Okay, let's go to a short break. When we come back, we'll talk more on the agricultural sector. Stay tuned. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is The Conversation, and we have been speaking about the agricultural sector, especially seed and seedling, the unavailability on it. And I have an amazing guest here with me who has taught us a lot. So if you're just joining us, you've really not missed a lot, but no, stay tuned. So let's move to GMO, genetically organized modified organism. So how are the availability of GMO seed in Nigeria?
Funny enough, I've actually not seen one. I've not seen one, and that's because there is more of a general refusal to accept it as part of our planting input in this part of the world. At least I'm aware of a number of persons who said they have used it.
Do you know we farm in Kefi, that's the desert GMO?
GMO, yeah, I learned so. I learned about a few places.
But also I know that nationwide in Nigeria generally they've not
the
really
adoption
accepted.
is very low.
Yes, they've not really accepted GMO. But is it that the seeds are not available at all, except for the Kefi one, because the large farmland that has that they'll produce that. But other smallholders farmers or a big merchandise, did they have the seed? The seed no, you said you've not seen one.
I've not seen one.
Which means majority of farmers have not seen one.
I think it's safe to say that, but also you must not. We are all aware that even authorities, when it comes to GMO in Nigeria, have been divided. You see a professor of agriculture tells you it's not healthy, don't use it. You see another professor of agriculture tells you that that is the future, the fear is needless. And so that's where we have found ourselves. And many people have actually suggested as a country, we actually have to sit down and quickly craft out a policy whether we want to adopt GMO or not. In fact, I've had, I think I've watched one of the sittings in the National Assembly, the Green Chamber, that should be last year, when somebody raised issue around GMO. And it was unanimous. They all said they don't want it in Nigeria.
Well,
yeah, so
that is why it is very low.
If at that level of leadership, if the answer was a resounding no, that tells you its adoption also will be seriously impacted. So I won't be surprised if those who are actually in the forefront of propagating the gospel of GMO are people who have had contact with some of these things outside the shores of the country. Curious enough, I've used GMO products. A few times I was outside the country. But in Nigeria, I don't see it on our shelves. In fact, I've never seen a GMO seed as a farmer.
But what's your view on GMO crops? What do you think about it? Since you've used it outside the country before.
Yes, I have.
That's outside the country weather. Sometimes planting, also the weather also determines it. And you know how Nigeria weather can be. I'm sure we have one of the best climate change and weather in the country. So, but what's your view on the GMO crops?
My view on GMO is what I just stated a few minutes ago. As a nation, let's bring this expert together. It's always good, just lock them in a room. Let those for and against, let them have that discussion. And when we are coming out, let's really know. Because those of us who are not experts, we have been put in a very difficult situation. When a professor says something is not good, you that you are not an authority in that field, you will be a bit circumspect and hesitant. And that's why I really think that at the level of maybe ministerial intervention, we must quickly resolve that issue. It's funny, even our policymakers. A minister comes and tells you, we are working on GMO, we are seeing how the ones that are beneficial to us, we adopt them. A minister comes, he waves the big stick and says GMO is bad. So that's where we have found ourselves now. But for instance, the last time I was in Malawi, and so they showed me, they said, this is a GMO apple. Oh. I said, I had a good chew, it was big, was fresh, was good, and it was fine, right? But we need to have that conversation as a country so that we know what level of adoption is healthy for us as a country and good for our agricultural sector. Because to be honest with you, we can have a population of 240 million persons and some people are hungry, we can't feed ourselves, we still depend a whole lot on importing agricultural produce that we can plant using our beautiful weather, like you just mentioned. And I think GMO is one of the things that can help us quickly bridge this gap and solve some of the intractable challenges we have in the agric space.
Okay. So do you not think the GMO crops will do well on our land, on Nigerian land? Because I know we have a lot of fertile land. Do you think the crops will do well on it?
I think it will, because a few people who also planted it in Nigeria, they said it's doing well.
Oh, okay, they are getting a bountiful harvest?
Yes, a few people who used it. The concern likely is not about our weather. I think the concern is about the health implication of adopting GMO in Nigeria. That is the concern, not the weather. I think our weather is viable enough to accommodate the usage of GMO plants.
Okay, but if you say it's the health implication and they're using in other country, it's really affecting their health. So is GMO crops very, very bad to health? Is it affecting health? Because the health implication is one of the major reasons why they're saying no in Nigeria. Yes. And other countries are using it. But we don't know, maybe their death rate is related to GMOs and crops they are using. So do you think it really have a bad side effect on health?
Oh, sadly, I must say I'm not speaking as an authority on the subject of GMO.
Yeah, no, just your views.
My opinion.
Yeah, your
just
opinion.
My opinion as a person. I think some of the arguments I've read for and against when it comes to the subject of GMO as it relates to health is that some of those areas, we must also factor the type of weather that they have. In temperate regions of the world, for instance, some of the immediate causes or challenges that accompanies GMO will not be obvious because of the type of weather they have. But we have very harsh, we have two weather here. We have the rainy season, we have the dry season. During the dry season is an extremely dry season, all right? During the rainy season, we have all the rainfalls here. Sadly, you must also know that the weather cycle across the country is not the same. The extreme hot weather in the north is longer, while the rainy season is longer when you go to the south. Even when you come to the south, it's not the same across board, okay? The number of rains you have in Lagos, for instance, part of Osun, River State, is not the same you have in the FCT. And when you are now traveling up north to Borno, Sokoto, is also shorter. So those are some of the conversations that, scholarly people have actually had. And when people at that level talk, you just have to listen to what they say, and what you need to do, maybe commission a committee who are also scholarly, who can go and look at the pros, weigh the cons, and now how much of GMO can we adopt as a country? And we need to do that very fast.
Okay, all right. Away from that, do we still have agricultural extension workers on the farm? Just like we used to have those days, that provide information and educations to farmers. Because I know they do have those in those days. But since I've grown, I've had listened, but I want to ask, do we still have those farmer workers?
Well, like virtually everything in Nigeria, the duty and the function of agric extension workers is becoming more apparent every day. But sadly, do we have them? The Ministry of Education, Agriculture and Rural Development every other day claims that we have them. But those of us who are farming,
do you see them functioning?
We don't see them, all right? We don't see them. I'm speaking on national television, so maybe people in authority, they will need to walk around the corner to ensure that, because we have a major challenge in this country when it comes to policy crafting and the execution of the policies. I won't be surprised if by the time the Ministry of Agriculture wants to churn out statistics, I won't be surprised if they have thousands of employed Agric extension workers. But in the real sense, and I'm speaking as somebody who is farming in the FCT, Buhari local government, I've not seen one.
Wow.
I've not seen one.
So it looks like they are not functioning. They might be available, they might be available.
In fact, I will be shocked if they are not available. I think they are available, but we are not seeing them doing anything.
Okay, so how can Nigeria achieve food security? Because I know food security is a major challenge that we face, even as a farmer, all these herdsmen, the animals coming in, those cows coming in to destroy their crops, and even as the sellers, the food sellers, is really even not easy for them to get those products to even sell. So I know food security is actually a major problem in it, but how can we afford that?
Well, how do we get to the point of food sufficiency? First, I must lay the groundwork that food sufficiency is non-negotiable for us as a country. Is something that we should have done maybe some 10 years ago.
Okay.
The best time to now focus on food sufficiency, I think, is not tomorrow, is actually today, it's now. How do we go about it? First, we have to, we shouldn't wait for Trump to gag us before we start taking our security seriously. Insecurity is a major issue when it comes to the agric sector, a major challenge. I used to farm in Kubwa. I have to stop farming there. I had to go to a place called Zico. That's where I have my farm in Buhari Area Council here. I have to go there.
What happened to the Kubwa farm?
Yeah, I farmed, had my beans and maize farm, spent huge sums of money to farm the place. And one weekend, Fulani guys came and ate everything in the farm.
Wow, that's so bad.
Ate everything in the farm. By the time we got there, I had less than, I couldn't get up to a bag of beans in several acres of land that I farmed. And I wasn't the only one who farmed there, several other persons. Don't forget, I'm trying to reiterate that I'm farming in the FCT.
And you're having this
major challenge. How about people farming in Borno, in Zamfara, in those places? You can imagine the level of challenge they are going through when they are farming in the where you call the epicenter of insecurity, the food basket of the nation, Benue, Plateau. These are places where we rely heavily on when it comes to sorghum, millet, maize, beans, and several of the staples that we consume as a country. And they are bedeviled by the height of insecurity we have seen in this country. So if you want to be food sufficient as a country, we must handle our security challenge very fast. That's the first thing. Number two, I alluded to that earlier. You see, no nation becomes food sufficient without the input of the GAO. That's the researchers, scholars, authorities on agriculture putting the extra work to ensure that we are not using seeds, seedlings, and farm implements that were used in the 20th century to do agriculture in 2025. And that's where we need to put more money so that they can research and churn out not just climate resistant or climate applicable seeds and seedlings. They can also help advise on what type of seed, what type of seedlings can be used at different times of the year. That's another issue. So we have to fund our agri sector seriously. Number three, to be food sufficient, I'm one of the individuals who really think that some of the responsibilities that we give to the federal government, we need to take some of those responsibilities and take them to what we call, the way our constitution is framed. Okay. We have what we call the exclusive responsibilities. You have what we call the residual. You have what we call the concurrent. There are some responsibilities that is only the federal government that take care of them. There are some responsibilities that are shared by the second tier of government, the federal, the state government, while you have one that is shared by the 3 tiers of government. Exactly. Agriculture is one that I really think most of the policies that are made from the Federal Ministry of Agriculture in Abuja often don't have effect in many of the local governments where farmers reside. So we have to rethink our policies.
Oh, is it that they are not aware of the policies, or is not extended to them? Or they are not being monitored to make sure they follow those policies?
When it comes to policy, I've said it again and again. We are often fixated on policy failures. Okay. But there is also the flip side. In my public policy class as an undergraduate in the University of Jos, I was told by my lecturer that there is also something called unintended consequences of policies. That is when you are looking at, we are going to use this place for studio. You are also going to ask yourself, some other things we are going to do, where are we going to use? All right? Okay. When you don't have enough place, then you say, this place will be too big, or let's do something else. Then you think that way. Unfortunately, our policy crafters, when they sit down, they are talking about agriculture, they do it in Abuja without the input of people who are the main farmers. So the outcome is often quite predictable. You are going to have policies that don't have direct impact on the main farmers. Oh, okay. And so we have to turn things around. Can we begin to have the major agricultural resources devoted to agriculture? Can we begin to have it at the local government level? There's no reason why all the local governments in Nigeria cannot become known for distinct seed and seedlings. We are that blessed as a nation. I don't think there's any local government in Nigeria that cannot major in one particular crop. I did a bit of study on China. The development of China came when they now began to devote certain zones. They call them regions, okay? They devote those zones and regions to handle specific things. So you have a certain region that specializes in plastic. That's also something from agriculture. You used to have your rubber and things like that. We used to have that in Edo, Benin, sometimes ago, where you also have NIFOR, you have the oil palm. You have it there. In the
sometimes
north,
you have,
a few years ago.
It's not happening anymore?
It's not happening anymore.
Wow.
You have what you call granite up north. They also handle millet, handle the rest of them. We have people who are known for cassava, known for yam, and things like that. To be food sufficient, these resources must not be warehoused in the FCT, and we now push those resources down. No, let the resources go to the local government where these resources are needed. And we can now begin to say XYZ local government will be responsible for producing WYZ products. So when we do that, I'm talking about a timeline of between 5 to 10 years. So it's actually a short, medium-term arrangement. We will not just be food sufficient, we will also be feeding the continent of Africa, because we have the weather, we have the manpower. This idea of people are jobless, let them go to the farm. Go to the farm to do what? Use the same seedlings that after all the labor. Like I told you, now, if you go around most of the farms in the FCT, you're going to notice that despite the chemicals, I've applied 2 chemicals, all right? Not the pesticide. You have to also apply chemical during the the flowering of the beans. But you will notice most of the farm, you just see this yellowish thing propping up in the beans plant.
Okay.
That's an attack already. And most of the smallholder farmers are not so educated to know what to quickly do to arrest that attack on their product. So if you are not careful, we might have a beans problem, because that's what is tilting to, because this is not the harvest period, this is the growth period. So in a few weeks, you now enter the harvest period. So when you have your seedlings not doing well, you can predict what the harvest period is going to be. Your harvest also is not going to be very fine.
Okay, you mentioned the agriculture, that farming or agriculture generally can do a large percentage in Nigeria. Do you think the agriculture sector can generate a great revenue for Nigeria, that they will be one of the major sources of income in Nigeria?
You asked a question.
Do you think it's possible, like we have the capacity to do that?
We have, in fact, our capacity when it comes to
it's beyond measure, right?
Foreign resource earning for the country. We can actually earn more from agriculture than we are currently earning from oil.
Okay.
We can, as a nation. You must also give the flowers to this administration, the effort to ensure that the non-oil sector begins to contribute more to our foreign earning. I think is gaining traction. We've seen it. Consecutive record and report have shown that our non-oil sector is doing very well, but we need to revisit the attention we give to agriculture. I'm aware that there was a period in our history when we were among the 10 highest producers of oil palm. There was a period in our history we are among the first 5 when it comes to cocoa, coffee. We have all of these advantages, but somehow we lost those positions. The crops where we are doing very well when it comes to the global stake today will be cassava. We are also one of the highest producers when it comes to yam and a few other products like that. But we actually, Nigeria is so blessed that, just mention the product, our weather is good enough
to kick it,
to make it happen. So we just need to begin to prioritize it, and also know that if we want to flip the coin, it's not going to be smallholder farming doing it. We must be able to bring the resources. Like I told you, 80% of our produce comes from small farmers. No nation who is serious with agriculture does that. Okay, no nation. We should be talking about, for instance, about, I think, less than 3% of the population are actually the one feeding Nigeria. In the US, less than 3% of the population are the one feeding over 90% of their population.
Wow, that's a good thing.
That's huge, because it's about mechanized agriculture.
Yes.
Okay, but here you told everyone to go to the farm, and the people who went to the farm, you are planting, no knocks to the first lady. There was a competition she tried to run that we should plant and use our garden. But I don't see how many of those small gardens that will feed the nation and make food sufficiency become a reality. We must invest in agriculture as a country.
All right, thank you very much. This is where we draw the curtain on the conversation. I'd love to thank our guests. Thank you for your insights and perspective. We had a great time talking about the agriculture segment. And to our viewers, thank you for watching the conversation. I am Beatrice Okimbale. Goodbye.